Dan, I gotta tell you what, this has been the best winter ever, don't you think?
What are you talking about? This has been the worst winter ever.
We have had the best winter ever in Ohio. We've had no snow. And I live in a
Oh,
part of the country called the Snow Belt. And we've had no snow. I have not even started my snowblower this year.
wow. I've got plenty that I could send down to you. It's still
No,
here.
no, thank you. And on top of that, it's not that we just haven't had any snow. It's we haven't had any cold weather. I don't
Yeah,
think we I think that big storm that came in during, around the holidays, we got super cold then, but that was it. We really haven't even had frozen ground this year.
that is pretty crazy. I've felt like it's been almost every week we have either had a winter storm or a winter weather advisory every week for the last 2 months.
Wow. And the reason I brought up the weather is because I'm just dealing with all this mud. And mud and firewood do not mix.
They don't? What do you mean?
No. I would imagine deep snow and firewood doesn't mix either, but it's been so
Well,
long since I've had to deal with snow.
yeah, the benefit of snow is that eventually it will just melt away. Where I don't think mud. I mean, if it dries up, it's still on the logs. It's still
Yeah.
on everything.
I had bought a triaxle of logs a couple weeks ago, and it was during the height of this rainy season that we've been having. And these logs look like chocolate covered pretzels, just covered in mud.
That's gonna make for some fun processing. That's always nice.
Yeah. Well, you look for the ground to be frozen in the wintertime. Um, from the way I'm running my business and the way I'm getting my logs, I'm leaning on these loggers and these truck drivers. And they like the wintertime, certain parts of the wintertime when the ground is just frozen like a rock because it's easy to work. There's no mud. The logs slide easy. And they can get them to the mill. The mills, they don't want mud on their logs either.
Right.
And certainly the firewood guys don't. But this year it's just mud. And I'm feeling the pinch because I am moving our operation to a new wood yard. And the
Yeah.
challenge is I have to have logs. I have to get all of the logs at my current location processed with my firewood processor before I can move my processor to the new yard. Well, when I move my processor there, I got to have logs. Uh, when you don't have logs for a firewood processor, it's pretty much a worthless machine. It's not
Yeah.
like a tractor or something that can do multiple tasks. It only does one thing.
Yeah, there probably isn't too much more you can do with it, is there? Other than
No,
just sit and look at it and wait for your
I
logs.
think a big red paperweight would be another job for it, and that's about it.
Have you ever just quick back to the 'cause we used to always drag logs home down on the farm, and we'd bring them into the yard, and then whenever they would have mud on them, we'd always just pressure wash them off. Have you ever washed any of your logs off, or have you ever tried that?
I have not. I never really felt like I needed to. There would be an occasional log, but I had rejected loads of logs in the past, simply because. And then a lot of these drivers that I deal with, they just don't. They're not going to bring them to me.
But now you have them.
Yeah. So that way, this might be a candidate to pressure wash because some of these, I'm serious, it is caked with mud. Not like
Yeah.
they just have a sheen of mud on them. I mean, caked on.
Ugh,
Yeah.
not good.
Well, it's not good for the chain. and it's not good for the customer when they get the wood. No one wants to have dust and, you know, clunky mud flaking off when they're bringing it in the house.
Or putting it in their smoker or in their oven to cook some pizza with or something. Yeah, that's probably not.
Uh-huh. Well, it's like, you know, with your outdoor wood furnace, you probably don't care.
No, no.
As nor do I. But the one thing I always remind myself with this business is that I am not the customer. So my customer base is slightly different than me. I'm using my air quotes here,
Slightly different.
slightly different. Yeah. If I were a firewood customer, I would not buy off of me. And I don't see why that's a big deal, but that's just, you know, I get that a lot from comments on my YouTube channel, you know, about my firewood and stuff. And, you know, oh, never. It's like, well, I'm not the customer. I'm providing the service.
There you go.
Hmm.
Yep. So you've got some big things in the works for this spring.
I do. I am moving wood yards. We have outgrown the old one, and it's just time. I am inherently a frugal person. I have avoided paying any kind of rent, and, you know, we've worked off of acreage here where we live on, and that has gotten me this far. And as I chart our growth and where I think we need to be and how we need to get there, it's time to move.
Mm.
Uh, the location that I got, it is a very high profile location in our area. It was a long time bulk yard for mulch and, you know, landscaping rocks and stuff. And the guy that owns it retired. And I have had my eye on this for a long time. There was other companies that have worked out of it and all, but I just always thought that it would never work out. But what do you know? It worked out.
Well, here you go. There, yeah, you're getting ready to move. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Have you ever moved like anything before? Or have you moved a house
Just
or?
yeah, just moving like apartment to apartment and house to house. I went through a stretch where 10 years I moved every year for 10 years.
Mhm.
But 10 times it was I'm done moving now.
Yeah. Well, it had always been in my mind that, so if I could speak to my younger self, I would tell him, first, I think you're really good looking and intelligent. You know, always got to be effusive with the praise here. No, I would tell myself, do not buy a big house. And that was it was kind of like a hobby that I had when I had a real job. I was into real estate. I was buying duplexes and apartments and stuff. And this house that I bought that we live in now, we bought it off the bank. We got into it real cheap. And now that the kids are in college and it's just me and the wife and our cat here, the house, it's just too big.
Yeah.
And I had thought that in a perfect world with my firewood business growing, that we would move into a firewood yard that's like a retail slash industrial location that would have a house on it. So this place does not have that. So, you know,
Oh,
it's
dang.
our area is zoned so you couldn't live there. Maybe if I snuck a camper on it, you know, no one would notice, but I'd have to convince the wife how that is a good idea.
I was just going to ask, how do you think that would go over? Honey, we're moving to the wood yard.
Yeah, I would not go over. Yeah, but what it does, it gets away from the house, all of the junk. You know, my neighbors are very nice and they never complain, but it's still not fair to them. So I'm getting all this cleaned up, but it's a process. I got to get all these logs made. And I had already committed that what I make here, I'm just going to stack here. I'm not going to create extra work right now. And then, you know, all these logs will eventually get sold. And then we'll reclaim this area.
Yeah, I was just going to ask because that sounds like what you're going to do then is kind of a longer drawn out process where you're still going to be coming back to your current wood yard to get the wood that's already stacked there. So this whole transition, you're looking at what, maybe a year? Or
Yeah, well, the production will be immediate.
yeah.
It will be at the beginning of May when the lease begins. That will be immediate. So all the machines, all the production, the quote unquote business will be moved there. So I'm still going to have logs here because I'm just not going to pull up all the wood that I have stacked here and haul it down there and restack it again. I'm not going to do that. So that is the plan. I think there's a level of convenience too. If you are laying in a house and the phone rings and there's a delivery, you can just go right out and just load it up here in the truck and go. So there might be a level of convenience there. It might be a level of risk management too, because having all your firewood in one yard, what if it catches on fire? Having it
Oh, yeah.
spread out. Like I still have two people that make firewood for me. I did have three, but the other guy's moving and he won't be able to make wood this year. He'll start again next year when he gets his everything set up. But I still have people that make firewood for me as well. So I have that in my back pocket. But that is the plan. We're going to move over there. I still don't see us being open to the public. I don't like the idea of it being staffed during business hours. I don't like the idea of pickup simply because, your firewood's worth probably twice as much to deliver it than it is for local pickup.
Yeah, and,
And
and if you had to all of a sudden start supplying local pickup and your delivery, you'd be having to make twice as much.
yes, and that is not possible because my limiting factor continues to be supply, procurement. I do
Yep.
not have the logs. If I had a mountain of logs and just an abundance of wood that I couldn't possibly sell it all and didn't have the ability to deliver it all, yes, I would consider local pickup. But I don't know, Dan, when you have a limited supply of wood, which, I mean, I'll just say that I have a limited supply because I never have enough to sell. I can always sell more than what I have, you know, why sell it cheap? It makes no sense to me. It's kind of like pine. There's nothing wrong with pine firewood. All the houses out west there's been a lot of houses in the United States heated with pine. But why would I want to process pine? Because it takes the exact same amount of time to make that into firewood as it does ash.
Right. Yep.
So why? But it's not worth as much. So why waste your time? You know, and that's the same way that I see with selling firewood. If I'm only going to have in a in in a most realistic terms a maximum of 150 cords, I'll never ever get that much supply ever. And I'm just going to max out at 150 cords. I can sell that with value added firewood delivery. So why sell local pickup? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That actually does make a little sense. It makes sense that it makes no sense, if that makes sense. I'm following you. I'm following
Are
you.
you following me? Okay.
I'm
So I'm
following
not.
you. So the bottom line is at the new wood yard, when you open, you're going to continue your operation as is. It's just that you're upgrading your location and you're not right now going to sell to the public, like local pickup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very well said.
Yep.
I don't even know if I'll put up a sign. If I do put up a sign, it would say not open to the public because it's gonna get a lot of attention. This big red conveyor going up in the air and these big piles of logs and stuff. People notice this stuff.
Yep.
So I
I,
would expect people to just assume, people think, the firewood yards, they're all the same and mine's different. So I would expect probably people are going to be stopping in.
yeah. And
Um,
that's where I was just going to say, if you did offer local pickup, you have to, I think, then factor in how much time you're going to be spending per pickup, because you know people are going to be interested in what's going on. They're going to be
Hmm.
interested in you. They might know you from YouTube. They're going to want to chat. So all of a sudden, you spend 3 hours of your day and you moved one pickup truck full of wood.
That pretty much hits the nail on the head there, Dan. That is not to say, though, Dan, that I got some ideas on how I could sell firewood with my new wood yard, and I'm going to leave you in suspense. But
Ooh.
we'll see how this pans out. This plan would happen after it opens, anyways. And yes, I would be showing everything on my YouTube channel on
Nice.
how
Ooh.
we could possibly make money selling firewood at a wood yard that is not open to the public. I like it.
Very intriguing.
Hmm.
Stay tuned, Woodhounds. There's more to come on this. I have a
Yeah.
feeling.
So Dan, your yard, now you're not, I wouldn't call you high capacity, right? You're not like a massive production yard.
No,
Have you ever gotten to the point where you thought maybe you could stand to have a high school kid or someone to come over and help?
no, never
No.
crossed my mind. No,
That's what.
the only thing I would want help with is possibly like creating the content that I make, but not the wood. But yeah, I've
I wonder
never.
why no one does anyone ever do that though? Because you got to think these kids these days. I'm sure there's like 10-year-olds that have more computer skills than we'll ever have.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
It's. I mean, that is something that's crossed my mind. But as far as the firewood production side of it, no, I've never looked at or considered, expanding. My main thing right now is just to get like some type of shelter over a working area that I can work under. So that's my big. If the snow ever decides to melt, that's my plan.
So what you're saying is, gimme shelter.
Yes, yes.
My Rolling Stones reference of the day.
Yep.
So you are looking at a pole barn, is that right?
Yeah, I've been tossing around that idea. I've looked into it. I've gotten a bunch of bids. It's just amazing the variation in cost from low end to high end, and then you wonder if the low end bids are going to be as quality as the top end bids, and then
Yeah.
there's other options out there to consider. So,
Like what?
well, there's some buildings like carports and I don't know, steel structures, maybe not necessarily
Hmm.
pole barns, but and like the hoop houses, and I don't know.
Yeah. These out where we live, there's a number of these pop-up shed for sale locations. Like they'll go on to like like an intersection where a gas station's closed down, and then there'll be like a bunch of sheds there for sale, and they sell carports too.
Ah, yep.
And but yeah, there was one like I stopped in that was looking at them, and they were talking like about a 2-month wait, which I thought was ironic because there's these sheds here right in front of me, you know. And then I heard it was the one that I was at. They just shut down, and then people that were on the hook to get their sheds, the phones weren't working, and they couldn't get a hold of
Ooh,
anyone. So I've always been dubious of who you do business with, because some of these places are, because I would think that you could just get a carport where they just bring it and it's already assembled, depending on the size.
yeah. That's a few that I've looked at. It's they actually just ship them out in a big crate. The frames slide together, and you get all the
Hmm.
material shipped to you, and it's only like I think a 10 to 14 day wait before it ships. So
Oh
you get
wow.
it pretty quick. And then they claim you can put it up in a weekend.
Well,
With so
it,
we'll see.
yeah, it would look like something from the Cat in the Hat after you got done building it. There, I deliver firewood to a brewery, and they have an outdoor. fire ring kind of an area and an outdoor seating area, and they have one of those Versatube buildings, and I mean, they are well built.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like square tubing and they got a lot of good bracing on them, and I
Now,
like them.
is that a carport style or like an actual
Yeah,
building garage?
no, there's a carport.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of them that I'm looking into.
Yeah,
They are nice.
but he had a number of people. I think they were like patrons, and he offered them free beer. But he had a big crew to assemble it. I think for one person or two people, it'd probably be a lot of work. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think you need at least two people because when you set those frames up, you need a person on each end, on
Yeah,
each side. So that's
I
that, but
am.
that is something that's possibly going to be coming into my wood yard. So
The reason I'm interested too, because I'm looking at a carport, because I would like to put a carport over my processor
yes,
to keep it and me out of the elements.
right. That's
Yeah.
my main concern. Just and that's I mean, obviously in winter, snow, summer, rain, but also the sun. You know.
Well, that's my problem is the sun. I have my own personal policy is I do not work in the rain, which, sounds like a brilliant idea because it is, which gives me half of the year off here in Northeast Ohio because it rains all the time. I just found making firewood with those processors in the rain, it comes out of that, when it goes into the trailer and you stay, it's just covered in gunk.
Yep.
It just picks up a lot of dust and it turns the gunk and it sticks to the wood and it looks ugly. I just don't like working in the rain. I think it's dangerous too. Those logs get slippery. And when you're like skidding logs or rolling them down on top of others, they just behave differently. And I just think it's dangerous. I don't work in the rain.
You sound like what was that postman from Seinfeld? Newman. He doesn't deliver the mail in the rain, sleet, or snow. Yeah, yeah. But that's the one thing with me with not having a processor. Like I can usually find something. If it's raining out, if I had some logs under the shelter, I could buck those up. I could split. I could make bundles.
That's right.
There's
You don't have a processor.
no.
Your processor went bye-bye. So
Yes.
what's the spring, is there any plans for that? Or is it a secret?
Um,
Or is there no plan?
that is classified information.
Hmm.
I'm not sure yet. Right now, there's not anything definitive going to happen. And there's might be a few things in the works, but maybe I'll kind of take your lead and leave that up to future episodes.
I played baseball until I was 31 years old, and it is beaten into your head in baseball that you do not talk or gloat about good things happening. Like if you're on a winning streak or if you're on a hitting streak or if you're pitching a no hitter, you do not talk about it because you jinx it and then it won't
Yes,
happen.
yes, I
Yeah. So
believe that
I've
as
just
well.
always been just conditioned. I try to keep like I got this brilliant idea and I think I'm going to go forward with it, but you don't say anything. You don't make it public until you have it because then you talk about it and then it doesn't happen.
We used to call that on the farm. You do not count your chickens until they hatch.
Yeah. Well, I think of all of the no hitters that I lost because I was a pitcher. After that first at bat, lost my no hitter.
Oh, yep. Yeah. So
I always thought I was a lock for the major leagues, but it turned out they had an abundance of left-handed pitchers that couldn't throw strikes.
ah,
Yeah.
imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, well, hey, what's one more? Well, Dan, it sounds like you're going to have an exciting spring along with me. You have a major project that's going on.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it all is dependent on when the snow gets out of here. And then I also have to remove about 6 trees before I can put anything up. So there's a long list of things to do. A lot of things in the works. But to your point, just when they happen, they'll happen, and then I'll discuss. Until
Hmm.
that happens, just leave it at that.
And and it's a shame that there's going to be trees that will have to suffer because of your plan.
Well, they are already dead. They're
Okay.
already dead.
What are they? Ash trees?
No, they're oak. We have
Huh.
that the oak wilt just has really hit hard.
That's
It's
terrible.
yeah.
We need to do an episode on invasive species and diseases.
Yeah, it's
You know, when who was it? Was it Harry Watt that was talking about? Was it the pine? Who was talking about the pine beetle? I thought that we were talking about that on this
uh,
show.
I
Yeah,
don't
but
remember.
anyhow, I yeah, that kind of stuff. That is, I had been reading up on like the gypsy moth, the emerald ash borer, the and Dutch elm disease. I just find all this stuff interesting. It's a shame, like with the American chestnut tree, which is long gone too.
Yeah, there always seems to be something, happening or things that like people they don't realize that sometimes removing trees is saving trees. That's the biggest, thing I
Right.
always hear is people get all upset about the number of trees that are being cut down, but a lot of times that's to
Hmm.
save future trees from being diseased or invaded on by some beetle.
I had heard. I guess this is knowable. I need to look into this. That there are currently, like, the United States is more forested now than it was in the 1800s.
Really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know. I'll have to research that. We need to get another guest on here that has knowledge in
Knowledge.
that.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be interesting to hear on that. On my property, I can tell you one thing that there's way less trees because not only do I have 6 in the wood yard that need to come down, we have 8 of them in the front of our property that are all dead as well, right on the
Yeah.
property line of our neighbors. And so it's like we're both in this standoff of who's going to get those trees taken down. Is it him or me? Oh,
We
it's
have that
something.
where we live. We have a row of poplars that separate the two properties up here, and we it depends on whose side the tree falls on it. Who no one knows who owns the poplars, but no one really cares either.
Yeah, it's always a debate when it's standing, but then once it comes down, then it's always pointing fingers. You should have
Yeah,
done that.
it depends on whose saw will start, who it belongs to. All right, Dan. Well, what do you say? Let's keep ourselves apprised with our projects as they go forward here through the spring, and if we run into any headaches or roadblocks, we can share them with everyone.
Yes, we'll bring info here, but also stay tuned to the YouTube channels because you'll see things happening, and then come here to discuss and hear about it.
Yeah,
Then.
yeah. Well, and then I'm going to be having an open house at my new wood yard when it opens. I
Oh,
don't have the specific date yet, but it would be cool if maybe you could come to it.
I will have to check the schedule. That sounds
Uh
exciting. Are we? So you are going to be open to the public that day then?
huh. To the YouTube public, yes.
Yes.
Uh
Oh,
huh. Yeah, I don't know what we'll do. It'll be. I mean, we'll come up with some cool ideas, but I'm just hoping to get like 3 or 4 people that can show up, and then we can have a nice day.
yeah. That's mark me down in pencil.
As a definite maybe.
Pencil me in,
Okay.
and yes, we'll get down there, and I'm excited just to see the. I've seen in your videos, kind of the lay of the land, but it's always
Hmm.
different seeing it on camera and seeing it in video. So I'd be excited to come down there and check that place out and point out all the things you're going to do wrong and where you're putting stuff wrong.
How I should better spend my money.
Yes, yeah,
It is overwhelming for me at times. I can't believe. that yeah, this is mine. It's
Yeah.
yeah, I'm this I still I don't think of myself as this happening. I don't know. It's like an out of body experience. I should still be sitting in my cubicle playing
Nah.
Minesweeper, pretending I'm working on my computer, but I'm playing Minesweeper and solitaire.
Oh, the good old days.
Right. All right, Dan. Well, what do you say? Let's get out of here.
Sounds good.
You need to go shovel snow, and I need to go stand in mud.
Yes. What an exciting way to spend the afternoon. There's
Yes.
only one other thing more exciting than watching the snow melt.
What's that?
Watching paint dry. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode here on the #1 firewood podcast in the world, the Woodhounds.
That's right. And we want to thank you for helping make the Woodhounds the #1 firewood podcast in the world. And I want to tell everyone to be
Safe,
and stay
fun,
while having a
great day.